Justin Thames, Director of Governmental Affairs for the Florida Institute of CPAs, and this is Impact Report, your weekly update on all things impacting the CPA profession here in Tallahassee. This week marks the end of the third week of the legislative session. Moving into week 4, we're going to be getting closer to the end of subcommittee meetings. We've seen a lot of action this week. Most of the committees for both the House and the Senate have met and heard bills, started to move legislation through the process. Of those moving through the process, I continue to update you on the deregulation bills. We have the main deregulation bill, which I've continued to update you. The language really hasn't changed as it relates to CPAs. We've seen some revisions for some of the other occupations. As you remember, for the CPA profession, it really impacts the licensure by endorsement process as it relates to the CPE requirements. So we'll continue to monitor that. We are somewhat fortunate that the governor and the legislature have taken a measured approach to how they've looked at these changes to the regulatory structure here in Florida. So that's the good news. There are some other bills that we're continuing to monitor. There's a sunset review bill, which I've mentioned. That bill continues to move through the process on the House side. Still going to see some movement on the Senate side more than likely. There's also a sunrise review bill, which really impacts any effort to change the scope of the regulations in Florida. It sets up a whole new process that has to be reviewed before a new regulation is implemented. So we're going to really be watching that bill closely. Later today, there's going to be a meeting from the Revenue Estimating Conference where it's a bipartisan group that meets to determine the impact from a fiscal standpoint of all legislation. They're going to be starting to take up a lot of the tax bills that are out there. So this is an indication of that the House and the Senate are going to start to look to craft this year's tax package. So we'll start to give you an idea of what we may see in the tax package this year. We talked a little bit about some of the tax cuts that we normally see. So as the Revenue Estimating Conference comes out with their determinations, we'll keep you posted there. Also today, we're going to be in Orlando with the Board of Accountancy. So some of the things that we're going to be listening to the Board of Accountancy discuss, we've got several cases related to CPE. There's seems to be more and more individuals that are getting caught up in the audit process from the department and come to find out they haven't completed their 80 hours even though they've renewed their license. So word to the wise, if you are not sure, just double check your CPE to make sure you're staying current on your requirements, because you are apt to at some point be caught up in the audit process, and the Board of Accountancy is really taking a hard look at those folks that don't complete all their CPE and in some cases haven't taken any during their renewal cycle. Mostly we believe that that's probably not a lot of our members, because we know you all are taking a real hard look at what CPE you take, but just a cautionary comment for those of you, just double check to make sure you're caught up. Next week, again, is the fourth week of the legislative session. There's going to be a lot of committee hearings. We're going to continue to see some of these bills move forward. The CPA bill is going to be heard next week in the Commerce Committee in the Senate, and hopefully in Business and Professions. Again, that bill would create a retired status for licensees, and it would also create some CPE reciprocity whenever a Florida CPA moves to another state, so that you won't have to take dual state CPE requirements. So all in all, we think these are good streamlining provisions for the profession. And as those bills start to move and get closer to the floor for a final vote, we'll keep you posted. As always, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your support and all the efforts of our volunteers and members. And until next time, we thank you again for everything you do for the CPA profession, and talk to you soon.